Hi students, in this presentation we will be starting with the chapter Molecular Basis of Inheritance. In this chapter, part 1 of the tutorial is this presentation in which we will be discussing the concepts of structure of DNA and packaging of the DNA double helix. So let's start with the first slide. In the first slide, you can see three important biomolecules: the DNA or the deoxyribonucleic acid, RNA or the ribonucleic acid, and protein, which we all know is a very important biomolecule for the building up of a living organism. So, how are these three biomolecules related in molecular biology? From your previous knowledge, you already know that the DNA or the deoxyribonucleic acid contains the information for life or for the living organism, and this information is in a coded form. This information is needed to make the protein. But DNA cannot directly make a protein. It requires a middleman or a middle molecule that is called as the ribonucleic acid. And what happens here is the information from the DNA has to pass on into the RNA first in order to make the protein. So this process by which information from the DNA flows into the RNA is called as transcription, and from the RNA it is used up to make the protein, or it flows into the protein. We call that process as translation. There's yet another important process known as replication in molecular biology, and replication is nothing but the process by which a DNA can make copies of itself. Okay, so these are the uh, three important processes in molecular biology which you are going to study in depth in this chapter. Now, what is the central dogma of molecular biology? A dogma actually refers to a rule or a law or a principle that is widely accepted to be true. And in molecular biology, the central dogma that we widely accept to be true is that information is flowing from the DNA, which contains it, into the RNA, and from the RNA, it is used up to make a protein. So, this is widely believed in molecular biology, and this is termed as central dogma of molecular biology. Now, having said that, there are some primitive organisms like viruses, and we hear a lot about the coronavirus today. The information is contained in the RNA and it is reversely transcribed into the DNA before it makes the protein. So, this is sort of an exception to the central dogma, okay, because the process taking place here is reverse transcription. Before we start with replication, transcription, and translation process, we need to familiarize ourselves with the structure of the DNA molecule, and a little knowledge of the RNA is also in our syllabus. So, the DNA or the RNA, as you all know, are nucleic acids, and a nucleic acid is a polymer. A polymer is a macromolecule. We have studied this last year. And a macromolecule polymer is made of monomeric units. Okay, and in case of the nucleic acid, the monomer is nucleotide. Okay, so DNA RNA is a polymer which is a long chain of monomers, which is the nucleotide. This much we have established last year. So we need to know what exactly is a single component of the DNA. That is, what is this nucleotide of the DNA? Now, the nucleotide of the DNA, as you can see here, is of the deoxyribose type, whereas the nucleotide of the RNA is of the ribose type. Now, the difference lies in the sugar. So, when we say deoxyribose sugar, one oxygen is less as compared to ribose sugar. So we're going to take a look at that a little later. Okay, in this slide, we start with the difference between a nucleotide and a nucleoside. This again is just a revision of last year. We have already seen that in nucleoside, we have just two components, the sugar and the nitrogen base. There's no phosphate group there. Whereas in a nucleotide, you have sugar, nitrogen base, and phosphate. So this makes up your nucleotide. So please keep in mind a nucleotide is made of three components: sugar, nitrogen base, and phosphate. Like I told you before, the difference between a DNA and RNA is the sugar molecule. Here it has the deoxyribose type of sugar with one oxygen less, and RNA has the ribose type of sugar. What are the three components of the nucleotide again? Here we are going to get acquainted with the structure. So as you can see, you have the sugar. The sugar, notice carefully, is pentose sugar. How it is pentose? It has 5 carbons. So we'll start counting the carbons. Carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4, and carbon 5. So it is a 5 carbon pentose sugar. Okay, and in case of DNA, as I told you before, it is the deoxyribose, because on the third on one of these carbons you have one oxygen less, whereas ribose will have an oxygen. Okay, so this is the difference between a deoxyribose type of sugar and ribose sugar. The second component we are going to talk a little about is nitrogenous base, or commonly we call it as the nitrogen base. So here you can see the nitrogen base has two rings in the structure. So this is a purine type of nitrogen base. Whereas a nitrogen base can also be with a single ring, that is a pyrimidine type of a nitrogen base. And in yellow you can see the phosphate group. So to revise, three components of the nucleotide are sugar, nitrogen base, and phosphate. Nitrogenous bases, let's name them: adenine, cytosine, guanine, thymine in DNA. Whereas in RNA, the thymine gets replaced by uracil. So please bear in mind that in RNA you don't have thymine but you have uracil instead. So here you can see the same thing. Thymine, cytosine are called as pyrimidines, which I told you earlier, right? And it has a single ring in its structure. Whereas adenine and guanine are purines, and if you look at the structure of purines, they have two rings in their structure. Keep in mind, uracil is present in the RNA and not in the DNA. Okay, so now that we know what is a nucleotide and the three components of the nucleotide that make up the polymer DNA, we need to know the structure of DNA. And this again is already done in the 11th standard, just a revision. The structure of the DNA we all know is a double-stranded helix given by Watson and Crick, and therefore it's called as the Watson and Crick model. So let's look at the salient features of this molecule. So the first point here says it's a 2 polynucleotide chain. You can see the two chains, and the backbone is made of sugar phosphate. So this gray part, gray strand, is all sugar phosphate, sugar phosphate, sugar phosphate. Okay, then the two chains have anti-parallel polarity. This again is obvious here. So if one end of one chain is 5 prime, the other end is 3 prime, and of the other chain, if it is 3 prime, at the other end it is 5 prime. So you have a 5 prime always close to a 3 prime end, and a 3 prime end close to a 5 prime. So it is anti-parallel strand. Then the two chains are coiled in a right-handed manner. So this is a right-handed coil. Diameter of the molecule is 2 nanometers. As you can see here, the width is 2 nanometers. Okay, one complete turn is called as a pitch, a spiral, or a gyre, and it is around 3.4 nanometers. And in one pitch, you have 10 base pairs stacked. So the distance between two adjacent pairs works out to be 0.34 nanometers. Then the mode of stacking this base pair is very important because it gives or offers the DNA helix stability. Okay, so these are some salient features of the DNA molecule to be kept in mind. Here again, you see um, sing, the helix, and what you notice here is the minor groove and the major groove. So minor groove in the helix is a slight depression, whereas the major groove you can see is a depression that is quite having quite a bit of depth. Okay, the next thing to talk about is bonds in DNA. So you have three prominent bonds: hydrogen bonds, phosphodiester bond, glycosidic bonds. So first we'll talk about the glycosidic bonds. Again, this is a revision of the 11th portion. So you have a glycosidic bond formed between a sugar molecule and a nitrogen base. The phosphodiester bond formed between two nucleotides. So you can see here it is a bond linking two nucleotides. Therefore, in this picture, you see a dinucleotide, meaning two nucleotides linked by the bond. And third is the hydrogen bond, which is a bond between a purine and a pyrimidine. So A is a purine, T is a pyrimidine. Between A and T, you will find always two bonds. This is by the Chargaff's rule. And between G and C, that is guanine and cytosine, you find three hydrogen bonds. So always notice this. A bond is between, the hydrogen bonding is between a purine with a pyrimidine. Here also you see a purine and a pyrimidine. Important for you students is to practice this diagram 6.3 DNA double helix. Okay, this has come for in many of the previous years board examination papers for evaluation. Packaging of the DNA double helix. So DNA, if you work out, you will find that it is approximately 2 meters in length. So can you imagine a 2-meter long DNA? A 2-meter long DNA has to be packed and folded in such a manner that it fits inside a tiny nucleus, which is around 5 to 10 microns, into a very tiny cell, which is microscopic. So, how does that happen? Now, we are going to take a look at the packaging of DNA. As you can see in this slide, the packaging is having a slight difference between a prokaryote and a eukaryote. In prokaryotic, because the prokaryotes don't have a well defined nucleus, they have a nucleoid region. The negative DNA is held with positively charged proteins and organized in large loops. Whereas in the eukaryotes, the DNA, which is again negatively charged, is associated with positively charged histone type of proteins. Here in pink, light pink, you can see the positively charged histone proteins. And the red is your negatively charged DNA. So the negatively charged DNA is wound around positively charged histone proteins. And these positively charged histone proteins are 8 in number. So if you count in one unit, you'll find 8 histone proteins. So we call this as a histone octamer. Together, that means DNA plus histone octamer is called as a nucleosome. So in eukaryotes, DNA is wound around the histone octamer to form a nucleosome, and these nucleosome, many such nucleosome units are further coiled. They're super coiled using another set of proteins called as non-chromosomal histone proteins, and they are then packed into structures called as chromosomes. You are quite familiar with these X-shaped structures called chromosomes. And where do you find chromosomes? You know, it is again inside the nucleus of a cell. So this is how the packaging in a eukaryote takes place. Nucleosomes supercoiled using non-chromosomal histone proteins into the chromosome, into the cell. So here we see the same thing. What is a nucleosome? Histone octamer plus DNA helix. And for higher level of packaging, you require another set of proteins called non-histone chromosomal proteins. Finally, we need to know the differences in DNA and RNA. So, the DNA that is tightly packed or compactly packed, and when stained, it takes up a dark stain, is called heterochromatin. This is not transcriptionally active, whereas the DNA which is not compactly packed and takes up a very light stain is called as the euchromatin. For transcription, the euchromatin is important. So euchromatin is transcriptionally active, whereas heterochromatin is transcriptionally inactive. Please keep this in mind. So with this, we come to an end of part 1 of this tutorial. Okay. And in case of any doubts or questions, please you can contact me through my personal WhatsApp number. Thank you.